Day 1 is shock. Day 2 is assessment. At 5 o'clock a.m., the lights snap on again. Count, but this time, Darren isn't confused. He's aware. He knows where to stand. He knows not to move. He knows who watches too closely. And now the dorm is watching him. Because surviving the first night doesn't make you accepted. It just means you're still being evaluated. Breakfast trays slide in. Powdered eggs, bread, milk. Conversations are quieter than the night before. Darren notices something subtle. People talk in layers. Surface conversation is sports, court dates, food. Underneath that information exchange, who got moved, who fought last night, who's new and who's temporary. A man across the table nods toward Darren. That's the new kid, not aggressive. Just labeling. Labels spread fast inside a dorm, and Darren realizes something important. If you don't define yourself quietly, someone else will define you loudly. Mid-morning. Free movement begins inside the dorm. Some men play cards. Some line up for phones. Some just observe. A tall inmate everyone seems to respect, not loud. Not flashy, approaches Darren's bunk. He picks up Darren's extra blanket. You using this? It's the same tone as the milk carton question. Neutral, but loaded. This isn't about the blanket. It's about reaction. Darren stands slowly, not aggressive. Yeah, I need it. Eye contact steady, voice calm. The man studies him, then drops the blanket back, cool, and walks away. The message spreads silently. He's not easy, but he's not reckless. Balance. Around noon, an officer shouts, court list. Names echo through the dorm. Two men pack quickly. One looks relieved. The other looks terrified. Court can mean many things. Release, delay, or something worse when they leave. The dorm shifts again. Beds empty. Energy different. Rikers isn't static. It's constantly reshaping itself. And Darren understands something new. Attachment is dangerous here. People disappear without warning. Rikers Island. For most, it's just a name whispered with a mix of fear and fascination. But for a 19-year-old kid named Darren, it was about to become his reality. This is the story of his first 48 hours inside one of the world's most notorious jails, a journey of survival where every second counts. Darren arrived on the island shackled, the cold metal biting into his wrists. The ferry ride across the East River was a blur of gray water and grayer skies, a grim welcome to his new home. The processing center, known as the Bang, was chaos. It was a sea of orange jumpsuits, echoing with shouts, coughs, and the clanging of steel doors. The air was thick with tension, a smell he couldn't quite place, a mix of sweat, disinfectant, and pure, unadulterated fear. He was just a kid from the Bronx, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, stripped of his name and given a number, he was just another body in the system. The intake officers barked orders, their faces hard and emotionless. Darren kept his head down, his eyes on the scuffed floor, trying to make himself invisible. He learned the first rule of Rikers before he even set foot in a cell. Don't make eye contact unless you have to, and when you do, make sure you mean it. After hours of waiting, he was finally assigned to a dormitory. It was a massive, open room lined with dozens of metal-framed beds, each one bolted to the floor. There was no privacy, no quiet. The noise was constant, a symphony of loud conversations, arguments, and the blare of a television that never seemed to turn off. The room was divided by invisible lines, territories controlled by different groups. Darren could feel the eyes on him, sizing him up. He was fresh meat. He found an empty cot near the back, dropped his thin mattress and single blanket, and sat down, his heart pounding in his chest. A tall, weary inmate with a spiderweb tattoo on his neck strolled over. "What you in for, little man?" he asked, his voice low and menacing. Darren's mind went blank. He remembered a piece of advice his uncle, who'd done time, had given him: never show weakness, but don't act tougher than you are. "Just trying to get by," Darren replied, keeping his voice steady, meeting the man's gaze for a split second before looking away. It was a non-answer, a deflection. The man, who called himself Spider, smirked. It was a test, and for now, Darren had passed. He hadn't folded, but he hadn't challenged either. He had simply existed. The first night was sleepless. The lights were never fully off, casting long, eerie shadows across the dorm. Every cough, every whisper sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, thinking of his mom, his little sister. He was a world away from them now. Sleep was a luxury he couldn't afford. In here, you slept with one eye open. The next morning, the wake-up call was a blaring alarm at 4:30 a.m. Breakfast was a lukewarm tray of something that resembled oatmeal and a piece of rubbery toast. Food was currency here, and you had to eat fast and protect your tray. Darren watched as another new inmate had his breakfast snatched away. No one did anything. It was another brutal lesson: you are on your own. During rec time in the yard, Darren saw the social hierarchy of Rikers in full display. The yard was a concrete cage under an open sky. Guys were lifting makeshift weights, playing basketball, or just standing in tight-knit groups, their conversations hushed and serious. These weren't just groups of friends, they were alliances, necessary for protection and power. To be alone was to be a target. Darren stayed on the perimeter, observing. He saw a fight break out over a disputed call in a basketball game. It was swift, brutal, and over in seconds, before the guards even noticed. The message was clear: respect is everything, and disrespect is paid for in blood. He realized survival wasn't just about being tough, it was about being smart. It was a chess game where one wrong move could get you taken off the board permanently. Later that day, he met an older man named Pops. Pops had been in and out of the system for 30 years. He had a calm demeanor that was rare in this place. He saw Darren reading a tattered paperback he'd found on a shelf. "First time in?" Pops asked, his voice gentle. Darren nodded. Pops gave him the best advice he'd receive. "Kid, you gotta be a ghost. Don't be too loud, don't be too quiet. Don't get in debt to nobody, don't lend nothing out. Mind your business, and I mean all of it. Don't look at another man's mail, don't listen to his phone call, don't ask what he's in for. Just serve your time, and keep your head on straight." It was a masterclass in survival. Don't be a predator, but don't be prey. Find the middle ground. Be assertive enough that people know not to mess with you, but not so aggressive that you become a target for someone looking to make a name for themselves. That afternoon, another test came. A guy from a different dorm tried to cut in front of Darren in the line for the phone. The old Darren might have let it go, or maybe gotten angry. But the Darren who had been in Rikers for 36 hours was different. He stood his ground. He didn't say a word, just planted his feet and looked straight ahead. The guy behind him muttered, "Hey, end of the line, man." The cutter looked at Darren, then at the guy behind him, and seeing no fear, he backed off. It was a small victory, but it was monumental. Darren hadn't started a fight. He hadn't backed down. He had simply held his space. He had used the advice from Pops, becoming a quiet force, a ghost who was still solid. As his second night on the island began, the fear was still there, a cold knot in his stomach. But now, it was mixed with something else, a sliver of understanding. He was starting to learn the unspoken language of Rikers, the subtle dance of dominance and submission. He knew the path ahead was long and treacherous. He would see things that would haunt him forever. But as he lay on his cot, listening to the familiar chaos of the dorm, he felt a tiny, fragile seed of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could make it through. His first 48 hours were over. He had survived. He had learned to balance on the razor's edge between being a victim and being a threat. He was no longer just Darren, the scared kid from the Bronx. He was an inmate, a survivor, learning the brutal calculus of life on the inside. His journey was far from over. In many ways, it had just begun. The story of Darren is a glimpse into a world many will never see, a reminder of how quickly life can change and the lengths we'll go to survive. Thanks for watching. If you found this story compelling, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into true stories from the edge.